AskReddit. What's a big industry secret that isn't supposed to be known by the general public? Part 2. Your children tell us nearly everything about what goes on in your home. Source: preschool teacher. Thanks for all the upvotes and replies. Cracking up reading some of these. I taught preschool for nearly 10 years. I can confirm. We had a cop visit our school one day. He was the father of one of the teachers. He talked about being good, law-abiding citizens and asked if there were questions at the end. I learned a lot that day about some of the families at our school. Some were a little too familiar with the police. Merlin Entertainments, the company that runs a wide variety of midway attractions like Legoland Discovery Centers as well as Legoland itself, pays most of their American employees less than Walmart. Oftentimes, employees love the job, but ultimately can't afford to keep it. This causes a near 90% turnover rate. This is just about everywhere in the entertainment industry. The general rule of thumb: if the job is low skill and fun, it won't pay much because it's super easy to replace people. The other side of this same principle also explains why actuaries make so much money. Adblock does a better job of keeping malware away than antivirus. uBlock Origin plus NoScript plus Unchecky plus Malwarebytes antivirus scan every other day is what I prescribe everybody who has problems with viruses. NoScript and uBlock keep you from clicking fishy things. Uncheck stops you from installing toolbars. Malwarebytes kills everything which still got through. Mr. Clean magic erasers are just melamine sponges in a fancy box with a fancy label. They retail for about $1 a sponge. $6.50 per 8-pack is a sale price. You can get a 100 pack on eBay for $4.99. Free shipping. I've bought those sponges before. The only complaint is that they tend to break a little too easy, but still work just fine. Not in the casino industry, but I am in the fire service and we learn things like this. Casinos will pump an extra 1% of oxygen into the air to make you more alert and give you more energy, which allows you to stay there longer and spend more money. It's also the reason casino fires can be so catastrophic. Working in the gaming industry and can confirm. They pump other things out too, like pleasant beachy smells of coconuts. Some are more obvious than others. Ask to have the late fee waived. I literally cannot do anything with it until you specifically ask. So you have a late fee of $30 on this. Gee, that's a lot. Why is it so much? That's the late fee we have. I do apologize for that inconvenience. Well, I guess I'll have to pay for it then. Okay, so your bill is $150. Do you realize how much that is? Yes, and I do apologize for the inconvenience. Well, can you do something about it? Yes, now I can because you asked. Please stop making me feel guilty that you paid your bill late. I had this happen with my power company. The bill was due 1 week before my paycheck, and in the summer months was always in flux, so I could never budget it properly or I would under-budget it. It was my first year living in this particular condo. So I finally called up after having my service disconnected twice. Look, I'm having trouble meeting this payment schedule. Is there any way I can pay an extra amount to prorata into next month's bill or something so I can offset the payments by a week? No, but we could just move your due date back by a week. Okay, that works too. I work for a web design development agency in Canada. Clients think they pay us to do the work. The reality? We charge anywhere from $5,000 to $200,000 plus for web projects. We take 90% of those projects and outsource them to India for $200. The projects come back built so poorly, we spend months fixing them. The CEO laughs to the bank. I don't agree with the process, but that's why I quit and start a new job next week. The projects come back built so poorly, we spend months fixing them. Wouldn't it be easier to just build them yourself at this point? Rocket science is like 90% plumbing. Well, it's hardly brain surgery. On the other hand, brain surgery isn't exactly rocket science. Our printing department printed your t-shirts wrong. and right now they're filling in the missing ink spots with Sharpies. I used to work at a t-shirt printing place. If it was small enough, we'd do it. We had Sharpies of all colors, but black was obviously the easiest. Security guards are underpaid and usually undertrained. That guy standing in front of the bank with the shiny gun, the guy some of you might expect to protect you if you're being robbed. He makes about $1 or $2 more than minimum wage, depending on what city you're in. The contracts for these jobs are insane. Sometimes it's hundreds of dollars per hour per guard. The actual person on the ground, in an industry that has very little overhead, makes very little money. Not only that, but they are usually used to do tasks that an employee from the company they're hired by won't do. For instance, guards at a unionized building will be required to fill in the gaps like emptying the trash or some other nonsense task. Oh, and if something security related happens while the officer is doing a said nonsense task, that officer is bound to get into trouble. It's a bad game, but companies love having the cheap labor wrapped in a scapegoat. Director of security for a company that rhymes with Uitas. Poultry industry. When hatched, a chick costs 25 US cents. Over its lifespan of only about 30 days, it consumes about $1 of feed, which is the largest cost to the company. The feed. No steroids or anything, just clever selective breeding have created birds with oversized breasts, which is where the money is. Within 3 hours, a bird is killed, defeathered, eviscerated, and chilled down to under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the magical degree at which microbial growth slows or stops. The chilling process takes the longest, nearly 2 hours in super chilled water. That's where the up to 5% retained water comes from. Certain companies add chemicals to promote more water retention. Every carcass is USDA inspected, every single one. Foster Farms has the capacity to process 2 million chickens each day, and they're not even in the top 3 poultry manufacturers. After chilling, the birds are then cut up and packaged, except the breast meat, which is aged, which is a fancy term for holding them for at least 16 hours to continue to retain water. That is sold at a premium, so more water equals more money. Chicken is good for up to 16 days, depending on if the cold chain has been maintained, kept under 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Very little is left to waste. The feet are mostly shipped to China. They can't get enough of them. Blood is used in fertilizer. Feathers are often ground up and fed back to the birds. Look for packaging that reads vegetarian diet or no animal byproducts to avoid that silent green thing. You use too much Dawn dish soap. That stuff is ridiculously concentrated. Obligatory highest rated comment edit. Don't tell me what I can top my flan with. That's the dirtiest sounding non-dirty thing I've ever read. Oftentimes the on-air personality you're listening to on the radio isn't actually live. Many tend to pre-record beforehand so they can either laze around recording commercials or do other work. I was amused while driving one time, listening to a relatively corporate rock station, and then they played the DJ, who introduced a song. Then, rather than playing the song, it played 2 DJ intros over the top of each other. Then, rather than music, continued playing DJ intros, chatter, and bumpers overlapping each other for like 5 minutes, including things like, it's 10 to 5, but it was only 3 something. And then there was silence for a few seconds, and then it played music uninterrupted for a long time, except for station identification, which must be automated on a different system. Blew through 2 hours of a DJ's hard work in 5 minutes. Grocery store bakeries do not bake the cakes they decorate. That stuff comes in frozen. I can't bake you a carrot cake. On top of that, most of the baking in grocery store bakeries are just pulling frozen pastries or muffins or whatever out of a box, panning it up, and putting it in the proofer or oven. We don't really make things anymore. A friend of mine is a bakery girl for a supermarket. When I worked there, I'd spend half my shift on dead nights talking to her while she puts little frozen bagels or rolls out for the morning crew to bake. They all come in little frozen boxes nowadays. If something comes in fresh, it's a limited special and costs probably 3 times as much. Midway games at carnivals or fairs purposefully let people win early on in the day. This way people carry around the prizes and advertise them for the rest of the day. Guess I should mention I volunteered at my local fair for several years. Midway game attendants use misinformation through internet forums to get people to play their carnival games early in the day during their biggest downtime. Record labels and producers sometimes use ghost vocalists for pop stars who really can't sing. Ghost vocalists are like singing impressionists who come into the studio and re-sing the song in the style of the pop star, but better. Often the pop stars in question don't even know that their vocals have been replaced. Oh, and for the record, no pun, terrible singers can't be fixed with autotune. It is only used to polish slightly untidy vocals. This is why ghost vocalists are used. I know an engineer who would routinely re-record guitar parts himself after the band left because it sounded sloppy and he didn't want his name attached to it. I played the bass parts for 2 or 3 re-recorded tracks he did because the bass player demanded he use his amp and his setting, but it sounded absolutely muddy. Every programmer in the world occasionally writes a very bad code that sticks with the app or program forever. You can also guarantee that code doesn't have any comments either. That one, or the best comment I've seen, something along the lines of, "Don't even try to understand something in the following lines, move on." I work in the trucking industry, and it's frightening how much food product is sold and resold after being rejected. Had a customer have a load of cheese refused because it was too warm, but took it back to another warehouse, cooled it down, and resold it to another customer. I've seen it done with cheese, juice, meat, and seafood. Only seen it done about 4 to 5 times out of 10,000 plus loads I've moved, but that is still too high. Same here, most people would be shocked at how much of a beating freight takes. I also know which electronic products not to buy because of the number of returns we ship.